And salutations all. Thank you all for joining us for this regularly scheduled board meeting on Monday, October 23rd. Roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Present.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Present.
Mr. Perry.
I'm here.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
Dr. Molnar.
Here.
All 7 are present.
Roger that. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, we will go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Autry, will you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And next, I have the pleasure to introduce our new student board members and administer their oath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of you, actually, I'm going to ask all of you to stand, all of my student board members. Can you all stand for me? And these are all student school board members, huh? Okay. And I'm going to read the oath. I'm going to ask you, so will you all raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you perform faithfully the duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Akron School District, Summit County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Thank you. Each of our board members to do is please stand, tell us your name and what school you attend. And if you're in a pathway, please tell us what pathway you're in. We'll start on the left, front row.
Hello, my name is up here.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Hello, my name is Darrell Thornton, and I'm from Firestone High School.
And your pathway.
Engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Darrell, you can grab it and pass it around. They can stand. Yeah.
Yep. Stand. Yep.
Hi, my name is Alicia Hote. I go to Firestone High School, and I'm in the Performing Arts pathway.
Hi, I'm Janae Duckworth, and I go to Garfield CLC, and I'm in the Business Management pathway.
Okay.
My name's Terry Chapman. I go to Garfield CLC, and I'm in construction.
My name is Whitman Sullivan. I go to Firestone High School, and I'm in the architecture pathway and ASA for theater.
My name is Piper Mead. I go to LSCLC, and I'm in the criminal justice pathway.
My name is Jada McGee. I go to East High School, and I am in the business finance pathway.
Hello, my name is Cochise Griffin, and I am in the automotive pathway.
Hi, my name is Zaya West. I go to Firestone, and sadly, I'm not in a pathway, but I am a College Credit Plus student.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Devon Colwell Sales. I go to Bookville CLC, and I'm in the IT technology pathway.
My name is Juwan Searles, and I go to Bridges.
My name is Christian Harg. I go to Bridges. I'm in the 10th grade.
Hello, my name is Pratima Gurung. I go to North High School, and I'm in GTB, Global Technology and Business.
Hi, my name is Anisha Rai, and I go to Akron Early College. My pathway is criminal justice.
Hi, my name is Deborah Joe. I go to North High School, and I'm a part of the HHS Academy of, Allied Health.
Hi, I'm Iris Bailey, and I'm in Human Health Services in North.
Hi, my name is Deshaun Allen. I go to Bookville CLC. I'm in IT technology.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Milan Snooty, and I go to LSCOC, and I'm in the Automotive Technology pathway.
I'm Zion Blair. I go to Akron Early College. I don't have a pathway, but I'm on my way to get my associate's degree.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Hullum. I go to Bookthrough COC, and I'm in the IT pathway.
Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Anderson. I am in the 12th grade at Akron Early, and I am getting my associate's degree in the arts.
Hi, my name is Charlton Pierce. I go to STEM High School, and my pathway is environmental engineering.
Hi, my name is Damian Cromwell, and I go to STEM High School, and I am also part of the engineering pathway.
Hello, we also have some parents here in the audience. If there are any parents here, would you please stand? We want to give you a round of applause as well. So parents who are here, please stand.
There we have it, APS's finest and our next generation of leaders. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Ms. Whitfield, for your mentorship and tutelage of all these young scholars. Thank you so much.
Derek.
Yes, Mr. Perry.
I just want to say to all of you, I've known some of you from years past, like Casey and others, but the ones who are new, it was a pleasure to meet you today upstairs at the reception, to talk individually with you about what you're doing in school and what your future goals are. It's exciting to see this part of APS and to see the real effects of what our teachers do here in the system, and you guys are the product of all that. So, thank you for being out, thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for sharing your stories with me. Thank you very much, guys.
And your work is just beginning. Okay. All right. Next, we'll move to item 1.3. I'm sorry, community school reflections. Does anyone have any school reflections? Dr. Molnar.
I always have reflections. Been a busy couple of weeks. I know we've all been at a lot of the same events, so once again, I'm going to try not to talk about events that other board members might speak to save time. So today I'm actually going to just talk about things I wasn't present for. I wasn't available to go to. So the first one, October 19th, King CLC had their fall reading festival with author Lindsay Benilla, and I wanted to bring this up. I missed it. I wanted to go. I was at the Summit Education Initiative event. But this is important because today, actually, our third graders took their OSTs. Today and tomorrow, our third graders are taking these tests, and so I cannot take these tests. But I do have a third grader who gave me a lot of reflections on his tests today. And I think a lot of us who are in the work every day with our third graders and with the curriculum, we remember what it is, but people who haven't seen the third grade test or the third grade practice test don't realize how far away it is maybe from our third grade experience. They read multi-page passages. One of the passages had 6 multiple choice questions, and they had to write a multi-paragraph writing passage, make and defend a claim, and use evidence from the text to justify examples in their response. They had to type that out. And this is what our 8-year-olds are doing for 90 minutes. And this is what they're going to do for 90 minutes again tomorrow. And I spoke to a third grader while I was picking my son. He goes, maybe I'll just be sick tomorrow. And it made me pause, because as now we're going into today, and we have all of these scholars here today, and also we have a government right now that is telling us not just what to teach, but there's legislation right now trying to tell us how to teach. And I remember when I was a pre-service teacher and we had to write our vision and mission statement for the university, which I didn't understand at the time, but now 20 years later, here I am reciting it, so I guess it had value. But it was to create teachers as reflective decision makers. And we needed to be reflective decision makers because our students are individuals. We have this many student board members because you're all individuals, you're all unique, you all have a valuable, necessary perspective that we need to move our district forward and to come up with solutions. And the one-size-fits-all curriculum, I don't think, is something that needs to be a burden for us. It's our job as board members to remove barriers, not create barriers to learning. So I just wanted to reflect on that today.
I think that's well said, Dr. Marnar. Thank you for that. That's a hard act to follow. Does anybody else have any student, any community and/or school reflections? Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I had the pleasure to go to the ADM board event at the John S. Knight Center, and that's alcohol, drug, and mental health of Summit County, I believe. And it was so enlightening and a wonderful experience. And I also love the brevity of the programming. It was very succinct, but it was very impactful. And so I like that they respect time. And but also the services that they provide for the community. They have service for the youth, for caregivers, and I just had no idea of all of the resources that was available. So that's why I really did want to highlight that event and the organization, because it's organizations like that that we want to continue to support and collaborate with, because we all benefit from their services, and especially our students, when it was talking about like the mental health and the suicide hotline that's available 24 hours and just other wraparound services that they provide. It's just a wonderful organization. And I was fortunate enough to meet with a young lady by the name of Jenny Cool, and I was talking to her a couple weeks ago. I took Dr. Banyo over to North High School, and we met with some of the students, as I already mentioned, that was in the health pathways. And so she was talking about their upcoming partnership with a liaison from the University of Akron, and I was sharing with her how there were many students at North that were interested in attending the University of Akron. And so I told her I thought that would be great for us to collaborate and maybe set a time up when that's all established with the liaison to go over there, maybe sometime in November, December, because I also was looking to maybe get with someone in Akron U to help the students with their FAFSA, because I know people said that that's being done in schools just like the shadowing, but when students ask me a lot of questions, I don't know what pockets is being done. So I know if I go there, and the North staff was amazing and set something up there, then I know for sure students are getting walked through the FAFSA and being touched. And so I'm excited about that. And also Jenny Koo at the ADM board of being willing to make those connections for me. And shout out to everyone there and all that they're doing and the services that they're providing. What a great organization. Additionally, Mr. Hall, as you were leaving, I was pulling up and I pulled into your parking spot at the Akron Public Schools Athletic Hall of Fame event, which was very nice. I did not know that athletes had so much to say. I really did not think that. It was a very interesting event, very informative. Mr. Alexander was there as well. And we have so much history in Akron from the sports. I was so happy, Val, because Coach McGee was there accepting an award on someone. And if you're from Garfield and you know Coach McGee, then you understand Dynasty and also how McGee was with his football players. And so they also highlighted Flossie, Coach Flossie, and I remember going to school at Garfield with the Flossie twins. And so it was just really nice to hear all that history about records and the things that's been done in our district as far as our athletic department, and that we have the foresight to really highlight them, because all of those athletes were very honored by being added into the Hall of Fame. So that is my reflection.
Thank you so much. Mr. Alexander, did you have a reflection?
I wasn't going to reflect, but I think I should, because our students who attended this event, the Akron Roundtable, Ms. Autry and I were there, and we had some of our students who attended, and I thought it was appropriate for them to attend because it talked about the violence, youth violence that's going on, not just in Akron, but across the United States. And there were some very good speakers, a lot of good information. And I did ask some of the students if they would to do a little reflection on what their thoughts were of that. And so I'm looking forward to getting their information back and seeing what they felt, how they felt about it, and maybe some solutions from them that we can help our students, and not just our students, our community, with all the violence that's going on. So it was a good event. I was glad to see our students there. Ms. Whitfield is always at these events with the kids, so I was glad to see her there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you for that, Mr. Alexander. And to that point, because at the ADM board, they have these really nice like magnets and cards for resources for young people or just anyone to be able to call for not only those mental health check-ins, but sometimes when these tragedies happen within our communities and the trauma that is connected with those tragedies, I think it would be, and I don't know, I haven't seen this, if we have access to these resources as far as those numbers and those magnets within our schools so that students could, like in a more discreet and private way, be able to connect with some of the resources that I saw was available at the ADM board. I just want to, I don't know, someone can tell me later, but I think if not, then that's something that will be good because, I mean, some great resources that they offer. And I think if students could tap into those resources without necessarily having to take a walk down to a counselor, but just on their own private time, 24 hours, these hotlines are available to know that they can connect with that and be reassured and walk through some of the trauma that happens in the middle of the night when they're getting text or seeing on Facebook some of the things that are happening in our communities, that would be great. So I'm glad that you mentioned that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander, you? Okay, all right. Are there any other community and/or school reflections? Yes, Vice President Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And so since we've last met, I had the honor as well, as Mr. Alexander already mentioned, of attending the Akron Roundtable Lunch Series. I was able to sit with a group of students from Buchtel from the education pathway, so it was just nice to meet them and get acquainted with them. We were talking about sports, and although I was not able to attend any of these games, I just want to say a special congratulations and shout out to Firestone High School football team, Elliott High School football team, East High School football team, and Buchtel High School football team, all of whom are going to be going to the playoffs. And I think that is something to be proud of. You don't see too many districts that have that many teams that are advancing. So we should all be proud. I know I talk about athletics a lot, but if that's what keeps butts in seats at school and keeps them focused on maintaining a GPA and teaches them valuable skills, discipline, teamwork, etc., I'm all for it. So congratulations to all of those coaches and those teams for a job well done. Also, since we last met, I had the opportunity to attend Cyberling CLC Family Community Dinner, which is starting to be a new tradition for them over there. Thanks for the invitation from Principal Horenko, their intervention specialist, Mrs. Spitali. I think she organized that. Their family liaison, Mrs. Rogers, and their climate coach, Mr. Hinton. While I was there, I got to meet Andrew and Legend, who were there supporting their younger siblings. They actually let me know that they go to STEM middle school. They're in the 5th grade. They were just supporting their young siblings. But it was just a pleasure talking with them. They told me about all of their favorite teachers over there at NIFSTA Middle School. They talked about their science teacher, Nicolino, their social studies teacher, Ms. Weaver, math teacher, Ms. Wright. They were really excited about those teachers, and they went on and on and on about those teachers. They talked to me about coding. They gave me a mini lesson on text coding and script coding. They taught me that binary is the language of machines. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was just a pleasure, and I was just so impressed because our students are just doing such great things, and they're just sponges. And so it was a pleasure to visit there. And then lastly, again, I want to thank the district for sponsoring me for Leadership Akron. Briefly, for those who don't know what that is, it's a cohort of leaders that are chosen to go through a program. And once a month, we get together and we have an immersive experience on a particular industry. And so last meeting, I spoke about Parks and Rec and how everywhere we went, APS was just evident. This month, Education was the industry that was focused on, and Akron Public Schools were the leaders in presenting that out to this group of 42 individuals. And it was just an amazing experience. I was really proud. Everyone was looking at me, expecting me to say something, and I just sat there and just observed how everybody was so impressed. We started off at Helen Arnold, then we traveled over to STEM Middle School, and then ended up at Ellett. Dr. Caver, Marcy Ebright, Ms. Tecca, Ms. Culver, they all did an amazing job. I have to quickly share this exercise that they did. It was so amazing. So we were broken up into groups, and each group had a scenario about a student. And we gave our opinions on where we thought that student should go to elementary, middle, high school, and then afterwards. And the student scenarios had different challenges that they had throughout their lives, but as we went to each school, we got the updated scenario, and we had to discuss out what our thoughts were. At the very end of the day, these fictional students were actually real students who came to us at the very end, and it was just such a powerful, amazing experience because they shared out with us what they were actually doing, and so we got to decide in our group, were we on the right track or not? And I think most of us were, but it was just a well put together presentation. I was really proud to be a part of APS, and that team should be very proud for what they presented. And that concludes my reflections.
Ms. Autry, did they tell you about the 36 mix, the best class they ever had? They tell you about that too? Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. All right.
What they said was Collaborate 38 was the best of the 21st century, but just say. I'll be brief. I just want to add quickly my congratulations to the APS Hall of Fame athletes, Mr. Alexander included. As also even more special for me because he's also an alumni of North High School, as am I. And it just, Ms. Autry, as you were listing off the sports and the accomplishments, we left off one. We forgot to mention the North High School boys soccer team that defeated Ellett 4-1 to clinch the City Series championship. So I just wanted to say that and congratulate Coach Emily Johnson on the work that she's done with that team over the course of the year. Multicultural team, speak different languages, and watching them communicate on the field with hand motions and half phrases. It was just, they were all just in sync. It's just to your earlier point, there are a lot of lessons about sports and what it can really teach us about being unified, even when there are barriers, that we still can find a way to be unified in serving a common goal and purpose. So again, that was inspiring to watch them. Unfortunately, they did fall in the sectional round to a team that they had actually beaten earlier in the regular season. They lost at the very end. There was a goal that was disallowed at the very end for an offside call where the two referees didn't agree. And so it was heartbreaking way for them to lose, for them to end the season. But they were only two seniors, so they'll be back and better than ever next year. So it's going to add that in addition. So. Having said that, are there any other final community and/or school reflections? Okay, next we'll move to request to address the board. First we'll go with, I apologize, my eyesight's not what it used to be. I think it's Ukia Campbell? Am I saying that correctly? Oh, Makia, okay, my apologies. So let me read our request to address the board, to the preamble. Participants will not be permitted to speak on matters related to vendors, business matters, formal complaints, grievances, specific student or student records, personnel matters, and potential or pending legal matters. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. The board will not respond, but will assign through the superintendent the appropriate person for follow-up. Ms. Campbell, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, yes. My name is Makia Campbell, and I have a child that goes to Akron Early College. I went there today because I had some concerns about my unruly child. As I go down there to her, the counselor and the principal, I asked them, how is it that someone can come in and add an emergency person on my daughter's contact or change any type of information that regarding my child without concerning me? or talking to me about it. The counselor stated that she was informed by Project Rise that whoever is the caretaker of the child, that they have to talk to that person. And I'm kind of confused because if there's no type of legal paperwork from juvenile court or anyone else, how can they override what the mother say about their child? So that's some concerns that I have of why this happened. Her name was Kelly, and she continued to state that she needed to speak to the caretaker of the child, which basically anybody can come down there and say, I'm the caretaker of the child, and they bumped the mother out of the legal custodian part, I guess. So that's my concern for Akron Public Schools.
All right, thank you. And we will assign one of our staff members to follow up with you.
Okay.
So before you leave tonight, can you just hang out and we'll get your information presently?
Okay.
Just so that way we know how to contact you to follow up. Because all I have here is an address. I don't have a phone number or anything like that to contact you. So, okay, Dr. Lash, we'll talk with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we have Laura Poundstone.
Mr. President, I would like to indicate that this is a general personnel policy that I'd like to address. It's not a specific. Is that okay to speak on?
Sure, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Superintendent Robinson, board members, hello, good evening. I'm here today to voice my concerns over the fact that our district has decided to hire individuals as teachers who only hold a high school diploma. I realize that this came from DeWine's office, and we adopted and accepted the policy, but there are many districts who did not. Are there competent, caring people who lack a degree? Yes, but that does not make them qualified to lead a classroom. The district already made the choice post-COVID to hire individuals who hold any kind of degree to act as a substitute. Again, while some are able, many I have encountered in my building have no business being in a classroom, let alone leading the educational process for extended periods of time. APS is already trying to make up ground with our students from academic and behavioral standpoints post-COVID, so the decision makes no sense to me and seems to be one of desperation. I'm excited about the announcement of Ms. Akins, being hired as the Director of Human Capital. My hope is the department recognize the need to restructure classrooms, consider more online or remote options, self-pacing for students perhaps who are able, so that families don't send their children in the hopes that they absorb some knowledge while they're in a classroom. My guess is the community has no idea how many non-degreed individuals are leading classrooms on a long-term basis. Maybe the board's approval of this was that they might pop in and be a day sub here, a day sub there. There are long-term subs leading classrooms in all grade bands throughout the district. Maybe some higher profile schools where the parents are in and out more frequently don't have as many long-term subs. I can tell you at Bridges, it's a huge portion of our staff. The decision not only impacts general education classrooms, but self-contained special ed classrooms as well. Many individuals who had been employed as paraprofessionals are now making more money, why wouldn't they want to, as long-term subs. They didn't have a degree. My own amazing paraprofessional has been with me for 1.5 years. What she knows, she's learned from me in that time. She doesn't have a degree. She's kind, caring, and patient. It doesn't mean she's equipped to lead a classroom. She now does. I also hate the fact that she's not going to go on and get her degree right away as she had planned to next fall. Why should she when she's making more than most of our starting teachers do each day through sub pay? She's got a 2-year-old. She's a single mom. I would love to see her earn insurance, a pension, a future for her family. Now she's kind of being used by the district, and that's going to be put on hold. I was once an investigator for Cuyahoga County, and I have a few degrees. But I'm quite certain that Mr.
Ms.
Perry...
Poundstone, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off there. I apologize. But again, we will assign through the superintendent the appropriate person for follow-up. But thank you for coming and sharing with us your concerns. Thank you.
These children here deserve better.
Next, we are going to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee or official of the district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
Just seconded by Ms. Autry. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we will return presently, but we do stand in recess. We are on
It's gonna be nice this week, though.
All right, recognitions.
Yeah. It'll be nice tomorrow.
Greetings and salutations. We have returned from executive session. It is 7:03 on Monday, 10/23 of 2023. Next, we are going to move to recognitions. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I just want to recognize that students from Akron Public Schools that were in the construction and building technology program at Elliott and Garfield High Schools, they were given an award by the Kiwanis Club, and this was actually handmade. So I just want to say congratulations to them. I will get it to them after about having it for about almost 3 weeks, but just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to the Kiwanis Club for recognizing the great work that our scholars do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Next, we're going to move to item 4, the approval of the previous meeting minutes from October 9th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. It's been seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, move to personal recommendations. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I wanted to recommend in sections 5 through 16 the approval of the personnel recommendations presented in these categories.
Items 5 through 16, okay. Is there a motion to approve the personal recommendations in items 5 through 16?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Autry and seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll calls, please. Dr. Thompson.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. All right, next we move to the approval of resolutions and motions in the consent agenda. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I wish to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 21. They are in proper format, and I move for their approval.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
It's moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
It's seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next move to next move to the approval of business fairs recommendations. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I want to recommend the approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in Category 23.
Is there a motion to approve the business affairs recommendations? Is there a motion to approve the business affairs recommendations?
So moved.
It's been moved by Vice President Autry. It's been seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Yes, Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to acknowledge item 23.5 and also 23.8. As we talk about youth gun violence, I just wanted to point out that there are 2 items there in which this district is attempting to address those things with peer mediation. And then also we are training some of our high school students on responsible decision-making and leadership skills. So that's through the Gear Up grant for that. And then also GAR grant. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Mrs. McKittrick?
No on 23.14, yes on the balance.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mrs. Autry?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Abstain on item 23.9 and aye on the balance.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are trying to make it challenging. So overall, they carry 7-0 with the exception of no on 23.1, which is 6-1, and 23.9, which is 6-0 with one abstention.
Okay, roger that. Next, we'll move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Congratulations to Academy coach Justin Plias, who has been awarded the Albert K. Fretwell Outstanding Educator Award from the Great Trail Council of Boy Scouts of America. This recognition is given to those in the education field that do outstanding work in building relationships, promoting positive values, and community service. Jessica Duncan, an APS teacher who was awarded the Big of the Year at Big Brothers Big Sisters. The award is a big deal because out of hundreds of mentors at Big Brothers Big Sisters, she stood out for her commitment to her little and the community. Special thanks to Mr. Joe Vasilati, Coordinator of Athletics, Ron Linder and Sherry Bassinger, for their work on the APS Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Saturday, which was very nice. Everyone spoke a lot. Yes. So, be kind. In a demonstration of kindness and leadership, Bookdale Middle School cheer coach Janelle Weems reached out to East CLC Middle School cheer coach Alexa Autry and invited her to collaborate and perform together at halftime of their recent football game, Kindness Amongst Rivals. Each team learned the same routine and brought it together on game day, showing the community an example of kindness, respect, and unity between rival sides of town. Let's watch the video.
All right, give it up for cheer unity. Come on,
So thank you to Ms. Autry, name sounds familiar, for this submission of kindness. Thank you so much.
All right. Do you have anything else? Do you have anything? Okay. All right, next, we'll move to President's report. No report for me tonight. Next, we'll move to Treasurer's report. Dr. Thompson.
I'll try to go quickly. If you could take one and pass around. one and pass around, and one and pass around. So, Dr. Hall, the rest of the board, Dr. Robinson, I just think it's really important that we just take a few moments to take a look at what I think is really positive information for you to have. So what you're looking at, there are 3 separate documents that you are looking at. The red writing, the one that says S&P Global Report, that is about an 7 or 8 page document that highlights the presentation we just made to Standard & Poor's to get our first credit rating in a very, very long time, if it's not the first credit rating. So that summarizes it for you. I'll hit a few highlights for you. A second document, the single-page document that you're looking at, lets you understand, well, what does any particular letter mean, and how does it compare to other letters? Where does that fall in place? And then the last document, which I won't talk a lot about, we'll pick up all these things in much more detail on our finance committee next week. But that is our monthly financial report as well. That's there for you. I'd be remiss not to start by thanking a couple people, Nina Biscayne and Deborah Folk. While they did not attend the presentation in Chicago, they did yeoman's work in helping prepare documents and get everything together, which made the work of myself, Dr. Robinson, and Todd Adkins a whole lot easier because of the work that they did. So they truly should be commended for their work. So thank you. So the first thing I want to take a look at is just quickly that rating scale. So you're going to see 2 different groups of ratings that we could have fallen in. The first group you want to fall in for sure. It's the investment grade. So essentially how bonds work, either you pass a levy, or in the case what we did was take out a COPS issuance, a certificate of participation. Schools can indebt themselves up to 9% without a community vote. There's no debt on the books. This debt total is less than 1%. Our payments are less than 1% of our total budget. So we're well within the requirements of law. But AAA is extremely strong capacity to meet your commitments. AA is very strong. Single A strong, but you are subject to economic conditions potentially. Triple B, adequate capacity. Triple B minus, considered the lowest investment grade by market. So those are the categories where we could go out and sell these bonds. We have to fall in here before we can even do a COPS issuance. The next grade is going down in terms of being likely considered for an investment. And you can see BB, and I won't read them all, but you can see they continue to go down, and it's just riskier and riskier for investors, and they won't go in this group if you fall in that particular group. So what is our rating? Now, I can tell you it's a very, very solid rating. We are dinged by one condition. If we had a bond issue with the voted exterior millage to support it, we would have been 1 grade higher. But as it stands, we still came in at an A, which is very strong for our school district. So I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to acquire a solid investment grade, which will help us on our the interest that we'll pay on that COPS issuance. So we are ready to move forward, and we will be selling those bonds here very, very shortly, which means you'll start to be able to see things really start picking up in momentum now that almost funding. Funding is assured, but we just have to see where we come in on our total interest to make our final payment. So some of the things they said in that S&P based on our presentation and the documents that we provided was that we are maintaining strong general fund reserves at a relatively stable level. So this is good to hear. This isn't Steve Thompson or Dr. Robinson or any school board members' comments. This is S&P who do this for a living. And they went deep into our books through everything. They said, well, good financial management assessment with long-term forecasting, strong budgeting assumptions and monitoring, and formal reserve policy that calls for a minimum of 2 months of operating expenditures. So they were excited to see that we have a trigger point. Management of right sizing of staff and facilities. They know we're declining in student enrollment, so they want to see that you have a plan in place to address that. Low debt burden certainly helped us, and we were able to pull that off largely because of the OFCC and what we were mentioning previously about CLCs. Debt service on the 23 COPS is under 1% of our general fund expenditures, so I think that's important to keep in mind. When you look at those numbers, they seem like large numbers, and they are large numbers, but in the scheme of things, they really aren't. Anticipation that management will continue to strategically align the district operations to coincide with that declining enrollment, and a true nod to the previous administration, Ryan and others, Dr. James, all the rest that had views good financial management and right-sized the district over the years to keep us in a good position moving forward. And then lastly, one of the things that honestly I discovered through this process myself was we have an incredibly diverse work base, economic base. Our highest taxpayer is only 4.1% of our total tax revenue. So meaning if a business does go out of business or move or et cetera, one single business doesn't destroy us from an economic perspective. And Amazon and others are coming in, and there's been a lot of stability, over the last 10 or 15 years in terms of our employers staying here in the city of Akron. So just wanted to go through that so you understood. Excellent news that we have an A rating. When you look at your financial monthly reports, you're going to see, that money's kind of going up and down, and that's because when we receive tax receipts, et cetera, it's going to be more volatile. And like I said before, we have to get past November before we can really start to get a true understanding of where we're going to fall in terms of any adjustments we might need to make to the 5-year forecast. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Okay, next we'll move to committee reports. We'll move to legal, policy, and contracts first.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Legal Committee met last Monday, October 16th, and we had a great presentation from our new Director of Technology, Mr. Henshaw, on artificial intelligence and large language models. For anybody who missed it, I highly recommend you watch the recording because it was very important, not just for the future in general, but specifically the policies we have. We had a first reading of policies that it directly affected, and tonight we have our second reading and motion to approve 5 policies tonight.
Was this, is this Dear Mr. Henshaw?
Huh?
Is this Dear Mr. Henshaw?
No, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Somebody got that in the audience. Thanks, Mr. Curry. Okay. Dear Mr. Henshaw, Newbery Middle award-winning book. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have to be a
Appreciate
certain
it.
age.
Your check's in the mail. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for laughing at that. I appreciate it. I do try up here. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, we have 5 policies. Policy 1540, suspension of admin contracts. 5610, removal, suspension, expulsion, and permanent exclusion of students. Policy 7540, technology. 7540.01, technology privacy, and 8305, information security. Is there a motion to approve the 5 policies presented under item 28.1?
I move to approve those 5 policies.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. It's been properly moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Finance and Capital Management Committee.
No report.
No report. All right, we'll go to Instructional Policy and Student Achievement Committee.
No report, but we do meet, I believe, on the 30th of this month for our last meeting of this year.
All right, roger that. And next, we move to Equity Committee.
No report.
No report. Okay. All right, so I see that we don't have any unfinished business. We'll move to new business, which is the certification of 2023 high school graduates. Is there a motion to recommend that the board certify the list of high school graduation for 2023?
I so move to certify those graduates.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Perry and seconded by Ms. Jackson. Is there any discussion?
I do have one thing. I just want to always, say that this is one of the most important things we do and things I look forward to every year is looking at these numbers from the different schools, being able to look at how many of our kids are moving through and doing the right thing. And so just in advance, congratulations to all of them. And I look forward to this every single year doing this part.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Ms. Autry?
Yeah, just echoing similar sentiments and just thank you to the teachers and everybody involved with our students' education who made this happen. 1,315 graduates. We should be proud of that.
I think that's well said. I couldn't say it any better myself, so I will not. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Absolutely.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
So one additional item to new business before we conclude tonight. Just wanted to follow back up. I know that we had the board had a conversation around the student fees, and wanted to just follow back up with you all and just to make sure that we had a good recollection of what it was that the board was looking for. So just to recap, recall there were some concerns around students' ability to pay student fees. And the composition of those fees can be a number of things: caps and gowns, special events, venue. That's all all gets rolled into one fee that students are then asked to pay. And so there were some concerns around that. I know some of you last time, and some of you have followed it with me offline, which is why I want to come back tonight. And so just to recap. I know caps and gowns were something that was brought up, right? So, not asking students to pay for caps and gowns, and so, I just want to make sure that that's something that this board is asking to do and wanting to do. So let me start by asking that question: was the cap and gown thing? Is that still something that this board wants the district or would like to see the district pay for?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, Derek, if we have one student who can't afford to pay for a cap and gown, that's too many. So I don't think that should stand in the way of anyone who wants to walk the stage and graduate. So I'm all for paying for that.
Okay. So I do want to distinguish, though, again, because this gets nuanced very quickly. So is the board saying that we would like to have a process in place to pay for those who can't afford it, or the board saying that we want to pay for all caps and gowns across the district, regardless of ability to pay?
I think this warrants some further discussion.
That's why I brought it up.
For us to look more, because I believe in the last discussion, we were talking about different programming, different things that different buildings had, different responsibilities of the learner and fundraising. So when we're talking about certain budgeted things, and when we're looking at our budget, I think that this is something that needs to be discussed further and then maybe addressed at another time when we have more facts and we know what what does the cost look like, and if it's going to be income based. It's just a lot of things with that, because you have some students whose parents may have on paper the finances, but that don't mean that they're going to give it to their child like that. And that's just the reality. Some children on paper could be from not low income households, but that does not mean their parents feel as though, I need to give you this. They may say, you need to work if you want to do these extra things. So I don't know. I don't have a direct response, but I would like to kind of unpack that more before making a blanket statement or decision concerning what we're going to buy or not buy. I know that I originally mentioned, and I thought it was a committee meeting, not a regular board meeting, but what does fundraising look like for a student, wherever the social economic background, like if a cap and a gown, because the diploma is the ultimate prize, right? And yes, everyone wants to make it and wear the cap and gown. So, what's some other options? So not to belabor the point now, but I just think I would want to discuss that more and kind of unpack that, and maybe even talk to some of our student leaders to see what is the tone within their various schools, what does that look like. And I'm really firm on the fundraising option, because I think that our students that are at the age to walk the stage, if they're not working, then what other things would they be willing to do in the area, maybe fundraising to help pay for some of those fees? So individually, not based off of what the PTA has, what if they have a strong PTA or a weak PTA, like what are some fundraising options that they can do, like double good, what's some things the ownership, the student can take to ensure those things, and not just, everyone gets a free cap and gown.
Right, so just one point of clarity. A lot of this conversation stemmed from the concern that students who cannot afford the fees were not going to be permitted to walk across the stage. So that was kind of the root cause of this initial conversation, and so that's where we're at now, right? And so that's why I bring it up, because again, as the superintendent and his team are trying to think through this, there was some confusion, I think, around, well, what is the board looking for exactly? What is the board wanting? What questions does the board want answered? And so it was a bit nebulous the last time we talked, and so that's why I wanted to bring it back here so we could clarify. From a timing standpoint, let me just say one more thing, and then I'll cede the floor to you, Mr. Alexander. Is I know that some schools are already beginning to send those letters out with what the fees are. And so it is. So to your point, I'm certainly not looking for us to figure this out tonight, but it is time sensitive, because again, students, at least in some high schools, are going to be getting those letters saying this is what the student fee is. This is what you've got to start to figure out how you're going to pay.
Did we discuss also that every school was different too? It wasn't just one fee for every single.
Yeah, and so that's where we'd come back to that's where we'd come back to. One of you, two of you said, well, maybe what we just agreed to do is just pay for the cap and gown, because that's the only actual requirement, to walk across the stage. And then somebody else brought up, well, if you can't afford to pay the venue fee, at least one school is not going to let you walk if you can't afford to pay your part of the venue fee. So there was a question around how we would remedy that too. So first let me go to Mr. Alexander and then Dr. Marnar.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Jackson. It's going to take more discussion, because we need to look at a number of things. One, we got to look at the costs and the ongoing costs. And if we're going to do this for every year, and so you got to look further ahead, but you also got to look at, as you said, responsibility too, because we're talking about having our kids to be responsible, and so they may have to be a little responsible too at times for themselves. Even though I feel for some, because whether they try to be responsible or not, sometimes other things that get in the way of their parents having them at home trying to babysit and they're trying to work, then it's kind of tough to do some of that too. But I do think that we need to think about this really in depth, talk about it, let the superintendent and their team talk to individuals who they think they should talk to, whether it be school principals, those individuals in the schools, and then talk about it before we decide to vote on anything. And there needs to be some serious discussion, and hopefully we all will be able to rally around whatever the final decision is that we need to make. But there's a lot that we need to unpack before we start voting on any of it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Dr. Marnar?
Yes, I agree with both of you. That's something that we need to unpack further, because another element of this that I believe was part of the discussion before is also the culture and climate of the buildings is not just lending to the venue and the way that we're gathering the fees, but also even the cap and gown themselves. I know that when I was doing, attending some graduations earlier this year, we had some graduation ceremonies where it was every student decorated their cap and gown, and there was a lot of cowbells, and there are others that had a more of a traditional commencement ceremony. And so I remember, when I graduated, I had a cap and gown that I wore for about an hour and a half, and then my sister wore it for about an hour and a half, and then my other sister wore it for about an hour and a half, and then it sat in a Tupperware container for 10 years before we donated it somewhere else. So I think that this would be a really great opportunity for our student board members to even share with each other. If you've been to a graduation ceremony, what does your graduation ceremony look like? Because in the conversations I've had so far, I've asked them, how often do you talk to students from other buildings? And so this is another chance for them to talk to each other. What does your graduation look like? What do you want your graduation to look like? And how would you feel in cap and gown?
Ms. Autry?
Thank you. I would just like to say that I just want to make sure that it's never an issue for any student. And as long as those relationships are in place, or a principal can let downtown know what the situation is, that's my thought. But that should never, ever, ever be an issue that a student doesn't graduate if they've earned it simply because of a fee. So.
Yes, Ms. McKittrick. Thanks, Ms. Autry. Ms. McKittrick?
That's what I would say. I would hate to think that a student has done what we've asked him or her to do, make it to graduation, and then not be able to because they can't afford a cap and gown, or their student fees to pay for the venue.
So is there consensus around that sentiment expressed by Ms. Autry and Ms. McKittrick, and I think earlier by Mr. Perry? Yeah. That the concern here is students who can't pay and what we do for those students, as opposed to saying we're going to pay for all this. It sounds like that what we're coalescing around is, well, we need to have a safety net in place for students who can't afford to pay. Yeah. As opposed, that's because that's different than us saying, oh, we're just going to pay. Yeah. Because again, we paid for this during COVID, but we no longer have COVID dollars. And Mr. Alexander, to your point, we pay for it now, then we are paying for it next year and the year after, and so again, really trying to get us around. So Mr. Alexander, please.
I like the safety net, because we have to be careful too. We don't want to we want to make sure that no kid feels embarrassed too, and so we got to make sure that when we look at all these things that we look at that as well, because of a kid is teased because they can't afford a cap and gown. We got to look at all these things. So there's a lot that we need to unpack. But I'm with everyone that we don't want any kid not to be able to walk across the stage because they don't have a cap and gown. And that might be just something we have to, maybe we get to a point where we're renting a certain number and we have a certain number for them there and we collect them and we can move on from there. But just things like that we need to talk about. Thank you.
I was just thinking if there's a way we could, somehow survey the families and parents, through the principals of the schools, hey, how many kids in my school will need this, and making it a way they can even ask for, and get it without the other students knowing, I guess, It doesn't have to be a big public display of, oh, I got a free cap and gown, but if somehow we can have that safety net for those students to be able to ask for it through their principals and ask downtown to be able to get their cap and gowns. And I think what Bruce was starting to say also there is good also. If we do have something that we could keep from year to year, I guess, and reuse those same cap and gowns, that seems to be a good economic practice down the road. Yeah, store them somewhere. And, I mean, we can figure something out, I guess.
But then you have to store them. Then you have to dry clean them. And that's another expense. The continuation of that, too. So, like I said, this is something that for a discussion to kind of unpack. Yeah. But I think, you know, the understanding to your point, Mr. President, you don't want a learner to not be able to graduate simply because the graduate requires a cap and gown. But I think we need to just really unpack, okay, so what does that look like for them informing us? How soon would they need to inform? Who do they inform? Do they send an email? This is when I was asking about that student voice, about how if student does have grievance or concern, then how does it get directly applied? You know what I'm saying? And I think I had said Dream because they have that website for students and where the students, when we had that presentation. And that's why I'm saying students should have a direct, if they have those concerns, a direct way to approach the person directly without going through their school representative, because now you're in my business. I would want you to be confident, but you're my peer and you're in my business, where I can directly get to my board liaison, that's my cluster person for this year, and tell them what the concern, and then we can convene and discuss that. And, you know, how are we going to determine who is being provided for or who is not, where it's just solely on the child. Does that make sense? Where we're not looking at, because if your parents work here, you don't qualify. Because then someone still may be left out because they may not have that money. So that's why I said it needs a greater discussion. But yes, I'm not in disagreement that I don't think that should be a hindrance. But what does that look like even for us to roll out, to your point, partnerships with the community that may sponsor a school for those who may need gowns. They may put a pot of money to the side and say, we're going to provide X amount of gowns, you know, for those students in need. Just things to consider.
Yeah, and again, the student fee is inclusive of the gowns. So even if we paid for the caps and gowns, there may still be a facility fee that a student couldn't afford to pay, and ostensibly they'd be precluded from walking because they couldn't pay the facility fee, though they could pay for their cap and gown. Yeah.
Now that's getting petty, because if a child cannot afford to pay and they get a cap and gown, the facility is already rented, and we're already there. All things considered, that's why I said it has to be, you know, unpacked in a way that we know that this is righteous, that we provided this. But now we have to look at ourselves as a district. If we talk about equity, and you got a kid, you saying, okay, you got your cap and gown, but since you didn't pay this, you can't walk at this building we're already here, it's already rented. Because of what? Or what options were the child faced with? Because that's another thing, too. Yeah. Did they have an option to open up a double goods store? You can be at home babysitting your little brother and your store still collecting money. Just do the Facebook post. So it doesn't take that much effort. It just takes a little initiative on your part to set it up. But it's fundraisers where you can do minimum and collect money. So that's why I'm saying we can go round and round here until probably 10 o'clock. But Derek, that's why I'm saying we can table this and go deeper in the discussion. I think we're in agreement that we want to do what's best to ensure that students walk that have earned the right to walk. But we need to discuss and put things in place and really flesh out what does that look like? How do we roll that out? How do they contact us? What will be the requirements? How do we determine who will get the free cap and gown versus?
Well, no, I'm saying it's not just free cap and gown. I'm saying it's because there's students who may not be able to afford to pay the fees, period.
And I wonder if that's another policy thing, that if they qualify for a free cap and gown, then who is stopping them from coming into, who has that authority, who is making that power decision then to tell said child that they cannot walk because you don't have money?
Historically, that's been at the building level. Which is why we're talking about it here, right? And so to your point, we could go till 10 o'clock on this topic, but it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody here, it sounds like what we're saying is what we're really looking for is the articulation of a process that students can utilize in a way that's private, that they can reach out and share their need to have all or part of their student fee comped.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's if they need it. If it's a need. If it's not a need, we don't want to.
And kind of the last piece on this, just real quick, is what I know we don't want to have happen is, well, once it gets out that, oh, well, if you say you can't pay, then they pay for everything, right? So everybody rushes in to say, well, none of us can pay, right? So
That's gonna happen.
So that's why the articulation process around how do we assess, to your point, Ms. Jackson, how do we assess that and how do we collect that, and what does that process look like? I think that's what we're asking for, right? Is that what I hear from you all? Because the common denominator of the comments was we didn't want anybody that couldn't afford it to not be able to walk for whatever reason, whether it's cap and gown or paying the other portions of the fee, facility fee or otherwise, that we didn't want anybody to not be able to participate fully that had qualified to graduate. Okay.
I just want to add.
Yeah,
I think
please.
we should look at some fundraising options for those children that feel that way. No, I'm serious.
No, I'm with you.
If you can't afford to pay,
Yeah.
then let's look at double. I'm going to keep saying double good
Yeah.
for those who someone made the mention they may have to babysit, because that is a Facebook post, that is a couple of your pictures, and let it ride. I'll buy some popcorn from them.
Well, again, that's part of that process, right? What's that process like?
Let it ride. Make sure that is in there, some type of skin in the game on the part of 17, 18-year-old that may be doing a lot of other things because, they're getting crime. Just that. I just want to make sure that that's in the discussion.
Okay. All right. Yes, Ms. Autry.
I'm really curious as to how many students we have that have not walked the stage for these reasons. And if that's some information that we can get in the near future, now I'm really curious
I think that should be part of the whole
about that.
discussion equation. You bring all this together, we come together with it. That's what we talk about. So you have all this
Right.
information on the table. You can sort through and say, what is the best thing that we can come up with to help these kids if we need to.
But yeah, I'm really interested in that because in my experience, buildings, staff come together and help students in those times. That's been my experience. So I just can't imagine that that's happened in our district. I just can't imagine that a student actually earned their credentials to graduate but couldn't walk simply because of what we're discussing now.
Right.
So
And we might be beating that dead horse because maybe we don't need to beat it.
Yeah.
It's already already taken care of. That's some of the information we can get.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Perry and seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing seen none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
We stand in adjournment at 7:46 p.m. Thank you.